It's been a little while since I've used the 617, and so hot on the heels of designing my bracket to hold the focusing screen so it doesn't fall on the ground and smash into 1,000 pieces, decided it was time for a road trip. A little while back, on the way home from a weekend away down in Warrnambool, we'd driven through a place called Lismore and drove right past this petrol station which is begging to be shot in 6x17. So packed up the camera and drove all the way out, 2.5 hours give or take, to Lismore. I'd been planning this shoot for a little while, so I'd done a fair amount of research, figuring out when I wanted to shoot based on when the sun was going to be setting and lighting the petrol station the best. But being that it's quite a far away, I decided to head out around about midday, getting there about 2:30, 3 o'clock, which is far earlier than I needed to be for shooting the petrol station, but I wanted to have plenty of room to make sure that my recce was correct. In the meantime, I decided that I'd take some photos of a windmill farm, which was nearby. The biggest issue I actually had with shooting these windmills was that I really wanted just to have one single windmill in frame and have the rest of the frame empty. I really like that look in 617 where you've got one item that is the center or the focus, and then the rest of the frame is very empty. Unfortunately, being a windmill farm, there's a lot of windmills. So I had to sort of play around, and there was a lot of driving around trying to find the right angle. That, and also I wanted to have the windmills facing the camera rather than on an angle. I finally decided on this first setup where I've got windmills on the left-hand side of frame, and then I've got a path just heading off in the distance in the right-hand side of frame, which I thought was a nice little counterpoint. And there it is. For a first frame, not too bad. I'm fairly happy with it. Ideally, I would have liked to have a significantly less number of windmills in shot, but you get what you get. I found a second composition fairly close to my first setup. To be honest, I wasn't really in love with this second composition, and I just wanted to get it out of the way. And you can tell, the image, whilst fine, is not anything to write home about. And among other things, the shutter speed was just a little bit off, and you can definitely tell there's some motion blur on the closest blade from one of the windmills, which could have easily been fixed by just upping my shutter speed ever so slightly. It looks fine, but it's just fine. That being said, it's an exposed image and it's in focus, and considering how complicated 617 can be, getting an actual image is always a win. Alright, so I'm just waiting for pretty much the thing that all photographers are constantly trying to wait out, and that is a car in shot. So here is, right in the middle of my shot, someone has decided to park. How dare they? So in the meantime, I'm going to wait. In Australia, there's a variety of iced coffee or flavoured iced coffees. However, there's one brand that is incredibly rare in the city, but every small town has this brand of iced coffee, but it's not in the inner city anywhere. Can't find it, and I don't know what it is, but every time you go to any small town, Nippy's iced coffee, it is the best. This is definitely bringing back memories of my youth. Used to get myself on Thursdays, I think it was, at school, I'd get money for takeaway, and I'd get a Nippy's iced coffee and a sausage roll. Half an hour later, he's still there. Although, I've got a hunch The car has got roadside assistance on the front, so I'm thinking it might be one of the staff members who works there. So hopefully, you know, it's heading towards 6 o'clock. Hopefully, maybe he needs to go home and have dinner at some stage. So after sitting around and waiting for quite some time, I finally got to set up my shot. Now, I really wanted to shoot this just before sunset, where the golden light was hitting the building. Very similar to the petrol station I shot a couple of months back, the reverse being that was at sunrise. But being that I was worried that I might get another car parking in front of it, I thought I'd set the camera up and shoot off a safety frame. Even though it was still fairly bright and I wasn't really in love with it, I thought I'll get out a safe frame just in case. That way, if all things go terribly wrong, I'll at least have one image. I'm really happy with this image, which surprised me. I wasn't expecting to be really liking anything in it other than the fact that knowing that I had a backup frame. But something about it really rings true. Ektar, as always, the colour is spectacular. The grain is incredibly fine and there's so much detail in the negative. It's amazing. Now it was time for my final image. I'd waited until just before sunset. The golden light was really hitting the building and there was some really nice shadows. And so I fired off a frame. If this was the only image I'd taken, I would have been incredibly happy with this. There's absolutely nothing about it that I don't like. However, when I look at the previous image, my safety image, I'm not sure. I kind of almost think I like the previous image. It's shot with direct sunlight, the middle of the day. It's really, everything about it is not what I'd planned. But when I compare the two images, I find myself going back and forth between them in Lightroom, and I can't quite decide which one I like more. Although I have to say, I'm leaning towards the previous one. Now, don't get me wrong, the final image I love. It's wonderful, and it really fits with my earlier image that I shot of a petrol station. They both have that similar vibe. But the image from the earlier part of the day, there's something about it. I'll have to sit on it, wait a while, come back and look at them in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure by then I'll have made a decision. But in the meantime, I'm incredibly happy with how this has turned out. I've managed to shoot an entire roll of Ektar, gotten 4 frames, all of them in focus, all of them well exposed, absolutely no technical problems with any of the images. This is without a doubt my most successful shoot with a Chroma 617. And my film back focusing screen holder has worked incredibly well as well. So I'm really looking forward to shooting some more rolls with the Chroma 617 now that I think I've started to dial in all of the equipment that I need, and I'm slowly starting to dial in my skills. So, until the next time, say hi to your dog for me. Why don't all drinks come with a straw? Oh shit, crap.